Welcome to the EarthWorks podcast, where our team will share the jargon of carbon from many of our turf friends from the past 30 years.
Well, hello, all of you EW podcast listeners. Welcome to the EarthWorks podcast. Looking out the window, it's cold, it's gray, it's gloomy. We're waiting for the grass to green up, but not to fret, because today we have got an awesome conversation with Mr. Stephen Rabideau of Wingfoot Golf Club. Steve was so generous to get on the Zoom call with me and have a very in-depth and detailed conversation. We kind of start out with some of his early places in his career where he got to cut his teeth, and he recollects even his first day on the golf course ever. And we move through the conversation to his time at Wingfoot and getting prepared for the 2020 U.S. Open, something that the golf course was getting all ready for 7 or 8 years, and then boom, 2020, year of Corona. And man, did that throw a monkey wrench in the mix here. But Steve goes through a bunch of detail on the specific preparations that were taken on the golf course, and then how they were able to react and still host a wonderful event this past September. So please sit back, enjoy. We are so grateful to Rabby for getting on this Zoom call with me and having a great interview. It was a really fun chat. So, thank you all for listening. Little bit of housekeeping here. Remember, subscribe. Get on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to podcasts. Press that subscribe button. You'll get all of these podcasts sent directly to your phone, and every week you get a new conversation. So, thank you all so much for listening. We're really having a lot of fun doing this, and I hope you're enjoying. Sit back, relax. Rabby coming up now. All right, Steve, thank you so much for coming on here, sitting down with us for the EarthWorks podcast.
Thanks, Jack. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm very grateful, and it's really kind of you to get on, take the time. I really appreciate it.
No problem. No problem. Lets me get warm for a few minutes on a cold day.
Well, what was going on out there today?
We're regrassing the bunker edges on the East Golf Course that we did 7 or so years ago. So we're just going back around, finding the original edge, restacking the revet on the faces of them, and so good busy work in the winter.
Restacking the revet. That's the sod stacked bunkers. Is that the deal?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. On the green side, on the side closest to the greens, we don't restack. We don't do the revetted stack on the entire bunkers, just on the side closest to the green.
And is that a turf type tall fescue sod?
Fine fescue.
Oh.
Yeah. So we stack it with fine fescue.
Excellent. All right. Well, let's see. I'd like to get started here with a question I like to ask everybody, and I'm going to ask you to kind of recall back, think back. Do you have any recollection from your first day at work on the golf course? Your first day ever?
At Wingfoot?
No. Your first greenkeeping job, first time on the golf course, first job, first day.
Yeah, wow. My first job was a 9-hole golf course in Massachusetts. I was one of 3 guys that worked on the whole property. There was only one full-time guy. Yeah, I mean, I had no idea what I was walking into. You know, it was a little old shack. I mean, it's not even a golf course anymore. It's now a hayfield.
How old were you?
I was 19 or 20 years old.
Okay.
Yep. Had no idea, need a job. My uncle got me a job on a golf course, somebody he played darts with at the bar, I think. So I got a job, and yeah. And it's funny, I worked there for most of the summer. I dropped out of college. I was probably 20. I dropped out of college no idea what I wanted to do. And my boss at the time said, you can go to school for this. I'm like, for what?
Oh,
This?
wow.
I had no idea you could even do, I had no idea that really the profession existed.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
They
I
got a lot of us.
grew up in a small town in Massachusetts, and
Where in Mass?
sort of the western central area, small town called Athol.
Okay.
Um, but then he said you can go to school for it. So and then I had liked what I was doing. Like I said, you do a lot when you're only three people on the golf course.
Yeah, I was thinking, like, let's see, like, what is a day like there? You're triplexing greens and
Yeah,
set up,
you triplexing greens and carrying a setup bucket around, and then you're out,
breaking
mowing.
greenside bunkers at the same time.
Yeah, you're mowing fairways with the old F10 and gang mowers, and it was neat. It was three guys. It was really old school. But it was I guess that's where I got my passion and my interest in it, and then I decided to go to school for it, and the rest is history, I guess.
And where was that? UMass Amherst?
Yeah, I went to Stockbridge. Got my associates in turfgrass at Stockbridge, and then I went to UMass, which is basically the same but different campus, a different part of the school, and then got my plant and soil science degree.
Yeah, excellent.
So
And so where did your career take you from there? What was the next move?
I did an internship that we were required to do, and I went to FarmNet Golf Club on Martha's Vineyard.
Oh,
Uh,
wow.
yeah, so I was 21 and living on Martha's Vineyard when we did a long internship. So it was great. It was party time, and it was hanging on the vineyard for a summer. It was great. Uh, but that was great. And then I went back to school and graduated and needed a job.
Yep.
No, I did another internship. I had to do another internship, and a buddy of mine, Robbie Alonzi, who me and Robbie went to school together.
Mm-hmm.
He knew his dad's buddy needed somebody for an internship, and then I applied, and that brought me to New York, and then I worked at the Appomattox Club for a summer as an intern,
Okay.
and then graduated and ended up down at the Seawain Club. I applied. There was a job at Seawain Club in the South Shore, Long Island, and I was there for 3 years.
Did you get the assistant's job there, or?
Got the assistant's job, yep. And at that time, it was basically, there was only one assistant. And I don't really think many people had two assistants at that time, so it was one assistant. And it was funny, I sort of got thrown into it my second year there with my boss. I remember I went on spring break, and I came back from spring break. I was down at Daytona Beach, and I came back from a week of partying down there, and that next day, the club told me that my boss was in the hospital with leukemia.
Oh my gosh.
So they handed me the keys, and they said, we need you to run the golf course. And I mean, I was less than a year as an assistant, green as could be. And my boss spent he spent from March to like October in the hospital.
Oh my.
So,
So
it was really getting. I would work all day. I'd go home and I'd read at night. I had no idea what I was doing. I had zero idea what I was doing.
I guess you were thrown right into the politics of it all too. I mean, you probably had to attend committee meetings and everything like that.
Yeah, everything. I had no idea what I was doing, but I worked hard. And there was a nice foreman there, and the boss's son was the irrigation guy there, and I got along with everybody. And I just worked every day, all day, and got the job done. And then my boss came back. I mean, we thought he was gonna, there's a couple of times they said we thought he was gonna pass away. And I'd go see him in the hospital, and we'd talk about things. And I came back. He came back, and I spent another 6-8 months there, and then a job opened up at the Hamlet Golf and Country Club.
Mhm.
And they had an outing that was at Sea Wayne, so they were familiar with what I had, the conditions, and I got the job. I mean,
Yeah.
I was 25 years old, and I got a superintendent's job at the Hamlet.
I've heard about your time at the Hamlet through Lockridge, through Ken Lockridge. He worked for you over there, right?
Yeah, yeah. Kenny worked there, and then I left. Kenny took over, and I think the Hamlet was a really good learning experience
Okay.
because it was a single owner. Um, he knew
Did,
nothing about golf.
well, yeah, which could be
Um,
good or bad.
and I had to fight for everything. Minimal, 44 hours a week. Couldn't work any overtime. The crew, so you had to get really good about scheduling and managing time and saving jobs to do in the frost or the rain, and really just had to get really efficient on things. And
Public golf at the Hamlet at the time, or was it private?
no, the people I worked for were builders. So
Okay.
they were one of the larger builders on Long Island at the time. So they took what was Comac Hills, and it was a 27-hole golf course, and they made it 18 and built houses around it.
Right.
Um,
Yes.
and every year we hosted, you always want to host a golf event, but we hosted a tennis event for 5 years while I was there. We had the warm up to the US Open. We had Hartrue courts, and it was called the Hamlet Cup, and it was a warm up for mostly all the Europeans that would come and play.
Wow.
So it
Was
was a
that
big,
was that your purview to set up the tennis?
oh yeah, we had to help. Well, we had to help do some stuff around all the clubhouse stuff. So, every year in August we had to shift gears and do that.
Right.
But it was, listen, it was a great learning experience. You didn't have a lot. Had to work hard to make it good, and ultimately try to get out of there. And like Kenny, I left and Kenny took over. And
Hmm.
he was successful, and was able to move on from there. And I left there and went to Wheatley
Yeah,
Hills.
and that's where I met you. Now, hold on. I'll interject here just for a little a TV recommendation, because you reminded me of this show I just finished watching on Amazon Prime. It's called Red Oaks, and it's a country club. The setting is a country club in Bergen County, New Jersey. Did you see it?
I watched it. Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
Paul Reiser, and they're all. It's really set around the tennis, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Classic.
Yeah.
Kind
It
of
was
that
good.
that classic country club scene there.
Yeah. Yeah. It was good.
Okay, so yes, you went from Hamlet over to Wheatley. Yeah, and that's where I met you. You did a lot of work over at Wheatley.
Yeah. I was there almost 10 years at Wheatley. Wheatley was a place that had struggled for years, and the greens they had issues, and the conditioning wasn't what they wanted. I started there in August. I remember I went in there in August, and there was a bunch of greens that were struggling, and we went in, and I remember grading in and aerifying them in August, and I thought I killed most of the greens from being aggressive, but
Graydon and Aerify in August.
yeah,
That
yeah,
takes some onions, pal.
yeah, we went at it. But yeah, we turned the place around, and Wheatley's a great place. It had still has a lot of good golfers.
Yep.
They're very passionate membership.
Mhm.
And they we hosted a lot of back then. We hosted a lot of events. We hosted Long Island Amateur, Long Island Open. We hosted the Treebird Memorial, which was it was an end of the year Met event every year.
Yeah.
Hosted a lot of other qualifiers and stuff. So we were always hosting stuff. When I started there, they had finished 9 holes of a restoration. So we took over and finished that project.
I remember the big effort to do the fairway flip that when you were over there. What was
Fairways,
that?
and then we'd gotten into doing a lot of tree removal, and they wanted to get into incorporating some fescue, some native areas. So we incorporated about 11 acres of fescues in there, and yeah, we did a lot of work there.
Now you actually saw cut out the fairways and staged them in the rough for a couple days. Is that right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And we did what we did and moved them back, and yeah, we were constantly doing a lot of work there. It was good. It was a good place.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. And then of course, what was it about 8 or 9 years ago that you left and went to Wingfoot?
I started in December of 2011.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm
So 9 years.
starting my 10th season. Yeah.
That's amazing. Now, the Open was already in the books at that point. They were already slated to have it, or no?
No, not really. I didn't know that when I was interviewing. I think the talks were ongoing, but it was official in I think it was March maybe of 2013 we found out. So I did a full year 2012. I'd heard talks of it and they were trying to finalize it, and then it was announced that it was official in early 2013.
Okay.
Um so and at that point we had already started to do some of the construction work we were doing here.
Now you had already, I think around that point, or maybe before, you were starting to establish kind of your core management team that stayed with you right through this year, hosting the U.S. Open. Who's that?
Well, the only guy, the two guys that have been with me since early on, West and Neff.
Yes,
Wes came with me from Wheatley.
that's right.
Wes came up and he started out here as an intern and just sort of worked his way all the way up. Actually, he
Mhm.
started as an assistant here, an entry level assistant, and worked his way up. He was U.S. Open superintendent this past year and has now gone on to get a superintendent job down at Oyster Harbors. Jr. was with me.
Jr.
Yeah, Jr. interned at Wheatley a couple years, and then he came up here. Those first few years, though, we had some guys that were short lived, that were in and out, and got a bunch of them got jobs and stuff. But Wes was the staple from day one here, and he
Yes.
just left.
Yeah, well, congrats to him. So let's see. Let's talk a little bit about some of the preparations that you started at that point, getting ready. Because I know you prepare for many years out. I remember Joel telling me that he would go up to Wingfoot when Paul Latshaw was the superintendent there, and the big story was all the trees that they were taking down. But then I think Rabby took a lot of trees down too. So it was a place just like a tree factory.
Yeah, it definitely was. It was overgrown. You were hard pressed to be able to look from one fairway through to another fairway. They had taken a lot of trees out prior to me getting here. But then when we started the project with Gil, the first project we did was a practice facility project,
Okay.
which was in the fall of 2012. We actually the last piece of sod down the day before Hurricane Sandy hit. Um,
Oh,
so
geez.
um, we did we took what was one large green, took a bunch of trees down around the clubhouse, around the practice area, and made what do we make? Four greens, one large putting green and three chipping greens, and a hitting area. So that was a big project that we did year one, and that sort of got some of the juices flowing for the membership, and they were happy with Gil and I think myself. And at that point, they wanted to do some work on the East Course.
Well, what a smart way to start, restoration like that. So you're saying this was you kind of developed this cool practice area that's right up at the clubhouse.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yep.
everyone
Yep.
sees it. They, like you said, it's a good way to kind of sell the bigger project.
Well, it sells a project, but also, listen, trust is earned, right? And they were happy with what Gil did. They were happy with what we did, and what we did as a team together, all of us in Labar Golf, and it was one of Labar's first projects, and then Gil at the time was asked to develop a plan for the East and the West, and we started on the East that following fall. So things picked up, and I had no idea all this work was even going to take place when I was hired. So I mean, we've been 9 years nonstop construction on
Oh,
one thing or another.
yeah, and like you said, even today, you're still the restoration and construction never really stops. There's
Oh,
always
we're doing stuff now that we had done 8, 9 years, 7, 8 years ago.
right coming
So
back.
we're just going in and just, it's nice to be able to do that, right? I mean, I don't know, we're fortunate that we can do those things, but we're just trying to recapture that back edge of the green where the grass sort of creeps in. We have Billy bunker liners, so we can find the original size of the bunker and just go in on those faces that have gotten beat up and worn down and stuff, and just resod them and restack them. So
Yeah. So the Billy bunker, when did that go in? Probably what, 7-8 years ago?
well, it went in when we were doing the green. So the practice facility was done first, and then fall of 2013 we did the front 10 holes on the east.
Okay.
That opened up in the spring of 14. So the
Okay.
Billy bunker was done then. We rebuilt every green. We rebuilt every bunker. We rebuilt almost every tee. We had a drainage plan that was being done, a master drainage plan that was implemented.
Now, rebuilding every green, what is that? Does that mean shelling out and coming in with a new mix, or
Yeah.
okay. So new
Yep.
mix, new drainage, and yeah.
Yeah, Subair, we scanned the greens, we laser scanned the greens, because that was when we started the project. That was the most important to the membership. So the one thing that they were really leery on, we told them that we could put the green contours back to exactly what they were. And they were very apprehensive, and they didn't know if we could do it. And listen, I get it. I mean, so when we first started the project on the east, on the front of the east, we had, our club historian was out there with trail cameras, cameras in the trees, filming us and watching us, and he was there nonstop, checking up on us. But when you use a laser scanning technology, and you scan it before, during, and after, we can show them that it went back as close to what it was when we started. So, and then when we started, once we did the front 10 and they played on him in the summer of 14, they liked that 10 holes. They really liked the performance of them. And that was at that time that, because when we started the east, they said we were never going to do anything on the west greens. The west is the open golf course. They didn't want to touch the west course at all.
Okay.
But once they started playing on it and seeing the performance of it and how they drained and the firmness, and that what we did, what we said we could do, that's when they wanted to do the west golf course. So that's when the west picked up. So we started the back of the east in the fall of 14 and finished that in spring of 15. So it opened up in May of 15. May of 15? We did 12, it was 13, 14, 15. Yeah. And then in 16, we hosted the USA 4-ball championship on the east.
Right.
And then we started, and then before that, then that's when it picked up steam that they want to do the west course. And we started the west course in the fall of 16. So we started 16, finished, opened in 9 holes. We did the back first. The back 9 opened in spring and May of 17. And then we did the front 9 started in fall of 17 and opened in May of 18. So we had 2 seasons to get those greens to where we wanted them for the open.
Wow.
And that was the same thing. We scanned them, rebuilt all the greens. The west, we put sub-air vaults in. We did all the bunkers, Billy bunker. We did all the tees, rebuilt all the tees, drainage. We actually did, the one thing we changed on the west that we didn't do on the east was that we did the variable depth, variable mix.
Oh, this is so cool. Yeah, go ahead. Now that means, go ahead, explain that to everyone, what exactly that means, the variable depth.
So on the east course, we did the mix was 12 inches. So we did a uniform 12 inches of mix on top of the 4 inches of gravel. But on the west, and we noticed that when we built those greens, that the ridges would get hotter, and our greens are severe, and then the middles of the greens, which is a lot where our cupping areas are, would just stay a little bit wetter. Not a lot, but they would stay just a little bit wetter. So the variable depth, and the USA knows about it. It's just hard to build, but when we're taking something and scanning it and going back to the same, you have to manipulate the floor. But what we were doing is we were going to put 10 inches, so about 2 inches less on the ridges,
Okay.
so that less mix is going to hold the moisture. And in the cupping areas and then in our false fronts and in the cupping areas where the water might sit, we put more mix. We put 14 inches of mix.
So you're 2+ on the 2+ on the low sides and 2- on the
on the ridges. Right.
ridges.
So
Okay.
where you want to hold the moisture on the ridges, we put less, and where we want to drain quicker, we put more mix. And
so it's easy. It's easy on paper, but for the shaper and for the guys that are doing it, that's probably a challenge.
It's a challenge, but when we're doing it, because see, when we built the greens, we know our endpoint, right? Our zero is our endpoint, and we're using a total robotic station where the data goes in there. So we took the green in the scan and we drew a map on it, and then we had that process so that when we were using the grading instrument and the computer on it, which is called the total robotic station, we were looking at a map on there.
Okay.
And then when you're wherever you are on that green, it shows an X of where you're at. And then we would look at that, and if we were in an area where it was supposed to be a 10, we would not go down the 12. We would not go down as deep, right? We would manipulate the floor. So it would say on the instrument, cut 1.66. 1.66 surveying feet is 2 inches.
Okay.
A 0.166. So we would manipulate the floor. And then on a area where we're trying to go 14, it would tell us that we overcut it. It would say fill. So we had to manipulate the floor,
right? Because
you want the end to be the same.
So once you got that shell right, once you got that floor right, like you're saying,
had to do you had to do the floor. You had to manipulate the floor because the finish is going to be the same. So the only way you can do that is you manipulate the floor. And
cool.
So we got, that's how we did that. And then we would do that the same for the gravel layer, because the gravel layer had to match that. So the floor and the gravel layer had to match that. The same thing.
Because it's the new floor. The gravel layer becomes the new floor, right?
Right. The gravel layer is the same as the floor. It's just with gravel on it.
Right.
And then we would put the mix on it. But that we're getting to zero. That's our finish point.
Yes.
So when we're using that instrument, we would set a vertical offset. Right. We had to calibrate the machine every day. And 16 inches was our vertical offset from the top.
Right.
12 inches of mix.
For a gravel.
But then we would change that on the floor and either be going 18 or going 14 inches, because you had to add in the 4 inches of gravel.
So then, all said and done, you got grass on the greens. You're going out with your TDR, and you're reading 6%, 6%, 6%, 6%. Maybe not 6, but you're reading consistent on the lows or the highs.
It's much more the variability of it is much tighter. Where when we would go to the East Course, you would have a wider range of numbers, between the lows and the highs, and it's a lot tighter on the West greens, and especially, it's more so for us. It was more important in the cupping areas, because that's where all the traffic is, and we're a busy golf course, and you're not thinning out because you're holding moisture. We also did it on all of our false fronts. We have a lot of false fronts, so we did it for playability in those areas, so that the ball, it would hit and bounce, right? Because, USGA greens, the water goes down, hits the gravel, and where does it run? It all runs to the front of the green.
Exactly.
And that's where out. And that's where the
drain and the whole deal.
Right. So we had more mix there, so that those fronts would be firmer. I mean, you wouldn't think a couple inches makes a lot of difference, but it does, So we don't have any wet spots in the fronts of our greens. So it's
Which then, yeah, maintenance all summer long. You know, you're coming around with your cut and all of that. It, you know, if it's wet, it thins out by the time by
Mm-hmm.
August, and also every golfer, everybody walking up the front of the green, the whole deal. So
Yep.
yeah, managing that moisture is so key.
Yeah.
You did mention, and I knew this, that Wingfoot is not one of these like 8,000 rounds a year golf courses.
No.
You guys
We're
pump
pumping
golf.
20 ish, you know, give or take, probably a little bit more per golf course, 20,000. We're open year round. You know, I got the East Course open. There'll be people playing today, you know, year round.
Wow. Yeah, exactly. So, and you maintain excellent conditions all year round. Like for example, you host a USGA event on the non-open golf course at your place. I mean, that's wild, right? You get
Yeah, I mean, the East Course has had two women's opens. It's had a senior open. It's had four ball championship. It's been part of two amateurs. It's had, you know, Shell's Wide World of Golf. It's been had a Walker Cup on the two. So yeah, I mean, the East Course is no slouch.
no. Now, and also what is the annual tournament at Wingfoot that you have every year?
Anderson.
The Anderson Cup, right?
Yeah, the
Which,
Anderson Memorial. Yep.
and what is that? That's for membership?
No, the Anderson is an invitational event. It's been here. It's one of the largest and oldest invitationals in the country. It's been here for 90 some odd years, I think, or 91 or 92 years.
Very
Um, and it gets some of the best amateurs. It's a partner event. Uh,
okay.
Teams from all over the U.S. Usually somewhat like 6 to 8 other countries. People come. It's a 5 day event. It's a big event. You know, they play both golf courses and practice rounds and everything. And it's if you're in the golfing that amateur circuit, you
Yeah.
want
You want to get that invite to the Anderson.
yeah, one person gets an invite and then he gets to invite a guest, but they both have to be from the same club. So
Oh, very cool.
yeah, it's a big event.
Well, now let's move forward to the year 2020. You know, we're starting the calendar year in January, about 1 year ago. We're all amped up and excited because in June is going to be the big US Open that you've been preparing for 7 years. And I was actually around that first week in March. I think I came by, which was like the week that the world shut down.
Yeah.
And it really shut down in Westchester County first. It was one of
Yeah.
the first places where there was a hotspot of COVID cases. New Rochelle, right there where you are.
Well,
So,
I live in New Rochelle.
oh yeah. Oh yeah, I remember that story. It was like, can Steve get to work?
Yeah,
Because
I had people calling me from all over the country going, "Are you like in lockdown?" And I'm like, "No, I mean, nothing changed." They said the National Guard was there. I never saw the National Guard, but but yeah, that shut down and we were getting really ready to crank, and you know, January and February were nice, and we were out and we were paving the roads that we had to pave and prepping and
yeah, you were
laying
laying floors the day I was there. The
yeah,
first
laying rock and floors, and we had you know, we were rocking and rolling. There's probably 100 people running around doing stuff. And that next Monday, USJ pulled the plug on the 19th, March 19th. I remember that week. It was a shitty week because it was the NBA pulled the
Mhm.
plug, NHL pulled the plug. Tom Brady told the Patriot fans on St. Patrick's Day on the 17th that he was leaving the Pats.
I have that. I actually have that written down to bring up because I
And and then 2 days later, the USJ pulled the plug on the Open. Not pull the plug on, but they stopped.
right.
Um,
We have
because
to
that
figure out what we're gonna do, sort of
right,
thing.
because that next Monday we everything was ready on 16 to start building the trophy club, and everything was out there, and then things shut down, and then it was, you know, what do you do?
Oh, what a kick in the pants!
Yeah, yeah,
And
and
then
then
they just kept moving the goalpost, I guess.
well, nobody knew what was up, so it was, you know, there was a month in there till about the middle of April until we had no idea what was going to happen. There was no USGA people. We didn't know if we were going to have it. So
Mhm.
everybody at that point was trying to scramble. All the golf, PGA and European and USGA. Everybody was trying to fight for the dates of when they were going to move everything to. And so there was a month that we didn't know what was going on. COVID hit. What is COVID? What are we doing? Trying to keep guys safe. We moved outdoors. We had an outdoor break room. You
Mhm.
know, um, we didn't bring anybody else back. So we had 25 people on staff when normally come, April, we were going to be 61, I think, this year. We
Yeah.
we we had 25 people that maintained both golf courses, 25 total, March, April, May, and the first week or two of June. That we had
Wow.
25 people.
Yikes! Two
Um,
golf courses and a U.S. Open.
Yep. So we didn't want to bring anybody else back because people were still out of the country and we didn't know where people were and stuff. So we said, you know what, we're going to do it with what we have. And it wasn't until mid-April that they said that we were going to have it in the fall.
Okay.
Um, there was a period there that we thought we was going to get pulled from us. That wasn't good. But then it was all right. We're going to have the date in September, but then we had no idea what it was going to look like.
Right.
So it's
Spectators, no spectators, who's going
yeah,
to come, the whole deal.
yeah. So then it was, we had no idea what that was going to look like.
Well, and let's just also talk about the reality of turf. Like you're maintaining a golf course here in New York State, and it's a lot different to prepare the golf course for and dial it all in and push it as hard as you can for an event in June, as opposed to an event after the summer in September. So you really had to shift gears, I imagine.
Yeah, it was listen, when we had an agronomic plan set up for June, and we did things last fall, and we had everything scheduled for and it was all earmarked for June for the Open, and a plan that we had prepared and ready to run with, and then everything gets changed, and now it's September, so now it's like, okay, wait a minute, now we got to keep the golf course pristine
Right.
shape, or all summer long through June, through July, through August, through September. You throw COVID in there, and people are playing left and right. You
Oh,
know,
yeah, of
so
course.
you have ball marks, you have divot recovery. You had to try to keep that as best you could. And it was so that's one thing, right? Ball marks and divot recovery everywhere. That's not that bad in June, but now
Yeah.
you put that till September, so you have to deal with all of that. Um,
In a normal year, and now this year we're rounds are up 30%.
right.
So
We had outings and we didn't skip a beat on that, so we were open 7 days a week.
Mhm.
Then the rough, I mean, really the rough, we're a parkland golf course, but the rough here, Wingfoot is known for being a difficult venue in the rough. So you try to keep the rough healthy and thick and not lose any of it. Well, you got to fertilize it, you got to water it, but then you got to spray it. So you just feed in a cycle. So it was a lot of extra work and inputs that we had to do to keep it good.
Yeah,
Uh,
and around here, I live in Jersey. I mean, that's like traditional gray leaf spot season. You get a hurricane that comes up through, and look out, right? Like
right,
so.
right. So you got to worry about summer patch, gray leaf spot, pythium, because we were pumping it with fert and stuff and all that. And so you had to deal with that. We had the tropical storm come through and shut us down for a week. Tropical storm Isaias.
I remember.
That was August, so we lost about 25 to 30 trees, and we had branches down. We were closed for a week. We had lost power in the neighborhood, so we had 2/3 of our irrigation satellites didn't have power, so we were having to hook up generators to them and get them trying to be operational. Um,
This
you
is
know,
insane.
yeah, so it was a whole bunch of obstacles. Then you get to September and it's dark, right? The starting times didn't change, but now it's dark in the morning, so we have 2 hours of less daylight. So you have less daylight in the morning. You're working in the dark,
Yeah,
and
you're doing
it's
divots in
dark
the
at night.
dark here. Oh yeah, yeah.
I mean, the first day we went out to rake bunkers, you couldn't even see the bunkers in the morning. So We had callbacks to go back and touch up bunkers and stuff, and it's crazy. One of the things that's funny I didn't think about to the week of the Open. We barely raked bunkers this year because of COVID.
Right.
Right. I mean, that was the one area, especially with us having 25 people. We just said, all right, the bunkers, no rakes are out there. We touched them up. Members are supposed to touch them with their foot. We said, listen, we're going to not do much maintenance in bunkers. And I think a lot of people did that this year, and they just sort of let the bunkers go a little bit.
Right.
And so we get to the Open, and the guys hadn't been raking bunkers. We didn't have any club events, any events that have to really rake bunkers really good. And so
they're rusty.
They were rusty.
Yeah, because it's hard to rake bunkers. I mean, to do it right, it takes a really fine touch.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, I didn't think of that. So let's see. So now let's get to the event. You got your whole prep week. What do they call that? Tournament week?
Well, there's advanced week and championship week.
Okay, yeah. So I'm talking championship week. So that's where you're really dialed in. Everything is exactly where you want it. And then Thursday, opening day, first round, and I think everyone was surprised. They said there was some record scores. Like it was but things changed pretty quickly.
Yeah. Yeah, I think
we all noticed the change from on Thursday night, Friday morning, and then I think again on Saturday morning. It was like it really the scores that were coming in were much higher.
Yeah, I think one of the things on Thursday, there was definitely a sense that they were concerned with the number of players and people getting their rounds in and finishing. Because when you start on Thursday and Friday, you have 144, 156 players. They cut it by 12, so I can't remember what it was, 144 or 156. So I think that was definitely a concern of theirs. That's why I think the golf course was set up a lot easier on Thursday. Which wasn't,
pin placements.
Pin placements and stuff were definitely easier on Thursday because they were worried because we had, they didn't know if we were going to finish the round. That was a big concern that they were worried about. And then if they didn't finish the round, we had to finish the next morning and then repair and everything. So, and it was benign that day. There wasn't any wind. So that was one thing on Thursday that they were definitely concerned about. And in hindsight, we had enough time. And then the golf course, the golf course got, firmer every day. And
which is what you planned for, I'm sure.
Yeah, we definitely planned for that. And our goal, what we were asked to do agronomically and preparing the golf course, we did exactly what they wanted. And so that, I was super happy with that. It was where we wanted on Thursday. We got a little rain the week before, and we didn't get any rain, and it dried up and firmed up, and the speeds were where we wanted them. And it was, listen, it was one guy on the par at the end of the day,
which I do remember you saying. You said if anyone's going to be under par, it's only going to be one or two guys. And the rest of the field is going to be far behind them. That was about 10 days before the event started. I was riding around with you, and that's exactly what happened.
Yeah. No, listen, Ron, what's his name?
DeChambeau.
Yeah, DeChambeau played great. I mean, he made everything on the greens too. So, that's one thing people don't talk about. He made every putt he looked at.
Before preparing for this interview, Wikipedia actually has a really good review round by round of the Open, and I took note of, yes, he had several 40 foot putts, 50 foot on number 9 particularly.
Yep. There
was a number of players had long putts to score eagle on 9.
Yeah.
So which is so cool because it speaks to what you were talking about with all the detail that you went into building the greens. You built them to roll true, And now we got the best golfers in the world and the best golf teams in the world to view those greens, and they rolled the way they were supposed to. These guys are the best in the world. They read them, and it held like you said.
Yep.
Yeah, he I know the rough was nasty, that's for sure.
Yeah, no, the rough was nasty. The rough was definitely nasty. We had to cut it down. But it was still nasty.
Yep. Took a lot of muscle to get out of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what happens on Sunday night, Monday morning? What's life like for you right after the event?
Sunday night, we hung out. Actually, the Pats game was on down at the shop. So that was the first football game, I think, of the year, or second game of the year. So we hung out with the boys. They had some fun. And of course, Monday you have an outing, right? So Monday morning we have an outing. So you're right back at it, spraying greens Monday morning, giving them a little love spray Monday morning to get them.
And they're all everyone that's playing in that outing is so amped up to play on the U.S. Open golf course set up for the U.S. Open. They're all thinking.
Yeah, I mean that's listen, buddies of mine that have had events like this, they all said, you get to it, you peak, and then there's a letdown, and then you still have a ton of work cut out for you because they demob and you got to get everything back together. So it was, guys are shot, you're working 100 and 120 hours that week. Everybody partied on Sunday night, and then Monday morning you're right back at it, and you're spraying greens, and they're starting to tear stuff down, and then it's start restoration.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the deal.
What it is. Yeah. It is what it is.
It's the job.
It's part of the deal. Yep.
That's good.
Yep.
And how about your boy Tom Brady going down to Tampa Bay and taking? Now, how do you feel? Like, are you proud of Brady, or what? You still like Brady, or does it hurt?
It stings because you can't be pissed at him. You're pissed at the Pats or Kraft or whatever, because if you give him some weapons, he probably would have stayed.
I know.
But
that team was 7-9 last year, and now they're getting ready for an NFC Championship game.
I know.
He's amazing.
I'm torn whether I'm rooting for him. He's the best of all time, and he's the best. But it just stings that he's with Tampa Bay. Him and Gronk, Antonio Brown. I mean, it's like we had that whole team. Sucks.
Oh man. Hey, Rab, thank you so much.
No problem, man. My pleasure.
Yeah. I really appreciate it, and enjoy the weekend. I'll talk to you soon.
All right, man.
All
Later,
right,
bud.
Rabby. See ya.
Later.